We're actually in Suzopo. Suzopo is one of the better Bulgarian coasts, summer towns and places to be. And the scenery has changed a lot in the past few years. I used to come here when I was a teenager with my friends from school. On our left side, we used to have a disco, and this used to be a place where we went to when we were teenagers. It's now a supermarket, and I'm guessing it's probably now more profitable as a supermarket than it used to be as a disco before. It wasn't a great disco, by the way. It was a little bit low-key and things like that. But yeah, this place has changed a lot throughout the years is what I'm trying to say. I have some memories from Suzopo, some better than others. There are some teenage stories that are not necessarily my brightest moments, but yeah, it is what it is. We're now at the Sugo Marina. We're gonna check out some boats. I'm a big fan of boats, to be honest, and it turns out that maybe I'm more of a fan about boats than I'm actually about cars. Maybe I'm just getting older. Anyway, back to the topic for today. The topic for today is obviously going to be related to the fact that we are working from the seaside. And of course, when we're on the seaside, what's the first thing they would think about? It's usually, oh, we need to go to the beach, we need to spend some time off, we need to relax, maybe have a couple drinks, which I think could be a good idea if you frame it properly. Of course, I'm talking to people who want to stay productive, they want to make the most of their time. So it's obviously not for everybody. If your thing is just going and doing a full-blown week of partying and relaxing on a beach and things like that, then of course it's okay to do that if that is your thing. However, if you want to stay productive, if you want to keep your game level high, even pick up the pace, I want to talk about my process of how I'm able to leverage working remotely and potentially spending some time on leisure and casual activities to actually increase my productivity in the long run. When I've been trying to be productive, and it's obviously been mostly at times when I had the reason to try and be productive. For example, something wasn't working great or our business was going down. What I tend to do is I tend to try and only work, try and only stay focused. Like I get to that extreme where I want to have focused work, focused time throughout the whole day, like maybe 12 hours, 13 hours, 14 hours if I can. Maybe in some small bout of days, it could happen. For example, for 2-3 days, 4 or 5 maximum, you could do it. But if you try and sustain this for a longer period of time, I think what ends up happening is you end up actually becoming less productive. I think getting to that extreme is not beneficial. On the other side, it's extreme leisure and lack of focus all the time. And somewhere in between is where I found my sweet spot. There are 3 types or 3 modes that you need to become a master in. And I'm talking about mastery, and some of those things are actually coming from a book called Mastery by an author called Robert Greene. I would definitely recommend you guys check it out. In this book, he explores the fact that there are basically 3 modes of work. One of them is your focused work, where you sit down and you focus on your work specifically, whatever that might be. Second part, you need to take some time to still focus on stuff that is related to your field of work, but is slightly different. So maybe you experiment in some other, let's say, programming language. If you're a programmer, if you're a business person, you experiment by thinking about, let's say, another line of business or a different business model. This is experimentation time, but it's still related to your field of work. The third mode, which is, I think, the mode that most people skip. It's not obviously everybody, but people that are trying to stay productive, they usually tend to stay between the first 2 modes. They're either focusing on the work that they have to do, or they're experimenting with something which for them still might look either like focused work, or they could also think about it as leisure, as taking time off. And it technically is time off work, but because it is in my field of work, it still falls into that bucket. The important bit, which we all miss, I'm also guilty of that, and this is the fact that you also need to take time off work. And this is doing something totally unrelated, taking on a musical instrument, taking on some kind of sport activity, traveling, reading a fiction book, watching a movie, spending time with friends, like all of those activities fall into that bucket, okay? And this is the part which is usually the most important part, because our minds and our focus are like a muscle. You can't keep it contracted the whole time and expect it to work efficiently. You need to give it time to rest. And this is not only time to rest in between different workouts, meaning time to rest between your different times of focus. Let's say every day you work, so in between you take some time off. Usually the time off is for sleep. But essentially the missing piece is that leisure time, which could be small pieces of leisure every day. It could be larger pieces of leisure, or taking time off every month, or taking a whole month off work, for example. Everybody needs to find what works for them. And I think it's very specific to the different time in your life. The whole point is that your mind and your nervous system needs this time in order to stay at peak performance. If you just keep it tight all the time, what ends up happening is you get less productive, you get less focused. If you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we're here at this beautiful marina, and we're talking about the fact that you need to take some time off. And now it's time for us to take some time off recording those videos. This boat is basically the type of boat that I think I like the most, at least currently, because it's a fast boat that can take you from point A to point B. So it's obviously inflatable, as you can see. It has two pretty big engines, which means it goes very fast. And there's no place to relax or something like that, but still you can get from point A to point B in no time. So basically something like a sports car in the form of a boat. And let's take this type of boat, for example. And to be honest, I'm not at all a fan of those types of boats, because there's a lot of work that you need to do in order to get this boat going. Obviously, they usually have some small engine, but this engine is usually just for maneuvering the boat around a marina or a place where you park. But then you have to rely on the wind if you want to get somewhere. And I think I don't necessarily like that too much, because what happens if there's no wind? Now, I'm sure someone who knows more about boats than me is going to say, well, there's always a way. Sure. But let's take this other boat, for example, where you just, if you have enough fuel in the tank, you just flip the switch and you don't need to, I don't know, prepare for 30 minutes before you can get going somewhere. My kind of boat, not my kind of boat. And this is probably, I would say, one of the most popular type of boat. So as you can see here, you have a lot more places where you can just spend some time. There's a place where you can sleep inside. This boat can take a lot more people than the other one, the small one. And there's basically like two major types of these boats. So one of them is just one deck, and the other one, they have the top deck where you can also chill at the top of the boat. And you can also, if you can tell, there's a steering wheel, so you can also drive the boat from the top. These are obviously a lot more expensive. They don't go as fast, but some of them are fast enough. If you have a boat like this, you can just travel around and you can park it anywhere, sleep in the boat, sleep in a hotel which is close to a marina like this. You can basically travel, I don't know, all across Europe with a boat like that. I think it sounds fun, because driving with a car, it could also be fun, but there's a lot more cars than there are boats. You could get traffic jams, you could get things like that. Boats nowadays sound like a fun thing to explore. What do you guys think about boats? Are you fans of boats? Do you like speedboats? Do you like boats that go with the wind? What is your kind of boat, if you're even into that? And also, what do you think about the facts that we talked about? Spending time off work actually does make you more productive. Have you explored any of that? Do you have any of your own experiences that you want to share? Leave them in the comments and I'll try to respond to every one of them. But yeah, that's it from me for now. And we're now going to be doing some more fun activities because I need to stay true to what I'm trying to preach here, guys.